Hey, so welcome to this episode of History Hitters. This is going to be a fun one for me because I'm into movie stars and TV stars and famous people. And I also live in Stanislaus County. And believe it or not, there's a number of famous people who have made their home here in Modesto and the Turlock area as well. I can't exclude them because there's a place I want to visit there. But this episode, I'm going to take you to different places, some homes, some schools, and some workplaces where the various movie stars that I'm going to focus on this episode, they include Timothy Olyphant, who is a big actor these days.
Olyphant.
Like elephant, but Olyphant.
That's exactly right.
He was in the Deadwood series. And then I'm also going to focus on Jeremy Renner, The Assassination of Jesse James. I really like that movie. He's in that one. They both attended Beyer High School. So let's go. Turn the radio off. Yeah, so we're going to go by Beyer High School in the 1980s. Both Timothy Olyphant and Jeremy Renner attended school there.
I think it's rather amazing to think that two future Hollywood movie stars were attending this high school in Modesto for 2 years at the same time. Timothy Olyphant was born in 1968 in Hawaii, but moved to Modesto when he was 2. He attended Beyer High School starting in 1982 and graduating in 1986. Jeremy Renner, who was born in Modesto in January 1971, walked these courtyards of Beyer High School from 1985 to 1989, which means that for 2 years, 1985 and 1986, he was here the same time as Olyphant, who left in 1986. Olyphant became a champion swimmer and was recruited to the University of Southern California. He worked on a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree but left the university one elective shy of a degree. He dabbled in stand-up comedy before deciding to become an actor and completed a 2-year acting program before auditioning for roles. Olyphant was cast as Sheriff Seth Bullock in the HBO Western series Deadwood, which aired for 3 seasons from 2004 to 2006.
Maybe you're mistrusted less as a killer than showing your cards a corner at a time.
Our cause is surviving.
Jeremy and his family lived in this house until his parents divorced when he was 10 years old. The divorce was rough on the Renner kids, and they would end up moving around a lot in Modesto. I was unable to find out the other residences where they lived, but Jeremy attended at least 5 elementary schools in Modesto, including Coleman Brown, Stockard Coffee, Garrison Elementary, Sylvan, and Sherwood Elementary schools. He graduated from Somerset Middle School as an 8th grader before going to Beyer High School. He spent a lot of his free time playing drums in his garage band called Ice Hot, something the neighbors complained about. Jeremy Renner's father, Lee Renner, managed McHenry Bowl, and his mother worked there as well, so it's not surprising that Jeremy and his sister Kim bowled competitively here until their teens. It was reported that he could bowl a .225 average at the age of 12. After graduating from Beyer High School in 1989, Renner studied at Modesto Junior College. His interests were computer science, criminology, and psychology, not acting.
So I came over here to MJC because this is where Jeremy Renner attended school after he graduated from Beyer High School in the 1980s. And he got involved in drama production. And we're going to walk over here to the Performing Arts and Media Center, which is where Jeremy Renner probably did his first performance as an actor. It was kind of a surprise because he was a shy kid. In class, his mother said he always wanted to duck behind the others when they took class photos. But it was here in this auditorium that he got involved in drama, and he performed 3 stage plays here. They included The Orphans, Sister Gloria's Pentecostal Baby, and Wizard of Oz.
I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head, I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain. I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or pain. With the thoughts I'd be thinking I could be another Lincoln if I only had a brain. Oh, I can tell you why. Ocean near the shore. I can think of things I never thought before. Then I'd sit and think some more.
Who could believe that such talent would come out of this facility right here?
Once he got to Hollywood, his first movie role was in the 1995 teen comedy National Lampoon's Senior Trip. Following were guest spots on shows such as Angel and CSI. This is the house on Elmwood that he bought for his mother, Valerie Surley. This house, originally built in 1929, was purchased by Renner in 2007 for $565,000. Jeremy Renner was just starting to take off as an actor in 2008 and was starring in the film The Hurt Locker. In January of 2008, he was visiting his mother here when a storm was blowing outside the house. He explained to the Modesto Bee about what he experienced when the tree came crashing into the house.
The branch came in, and I heard it before the glass started flying on me, so I was able to get up and just run. I didn't know what I was running from, one of those things, you know. I just heard noise and craziness and stuff was happening, so I started running. Not sure what that means, if I'm a coward or something, but but yeah, human instincts just started running, and it reminded me of like in LA, the '94 quake. It just when things just started rattling, you had no idea what it was, and stuff was falling, and I just heard the winds were howling as it was, so I was kind of used to weird noises, but then this thing came in. It was just like a freight train came through the house, you know, horses galloping around. It's sad to see such a great tree go down, but you know, why in the house? You know, terrible thing.
The Renner house was sold in 2017 for just a little more than he paid for it, but today the house is worth about $823,000. So now we're going down Norwegian, and I'm going to show you where Tim Olyphant lived when he was a kid. Unfortunately, the house that Timothy Olyphant lived at is behind a fence. It's pretty close to the racket club here. And there's some houses behind the gates here, and right here. So right there is where Tim Olyphant lived. I found the information on the city directory from back in the 1980s, I believe. But the young actor, when he was growing up, lived right here behind this fence, in the house behind this fence, and this is how close Tim Olyphant lived to the racket club. The racket club's down here. Yeah. I suppose it's not very surprising to know that Tim Olyphant was a very athletic kid growing up next to an athletic club, but there are quite a few archived newspaper articles reporting on the swimming success of Tim Olyphant, some as early as 9 and 10 years old. In high school, he was also a very accomplished competitive swimmer. A lot of you folks probably don't know, if you're not from Modesto, that Carol Channing, who was the Broadway star, Hello Dolly star, very unique entertainer herself, moved to Modesto late in her life after she met her first love in her life, Harry Collegian, and they met up later in life after their spouses passed away to move to Modesto, which shocked a lot of people because she conjures up this image of, you know, New York and Broadway.
I'm a jazz baby, little jazz baby, that's me.
He passed away, which is the reason that she left Modesto. There was no other reason to stay in Modesto other than have her be with her husband, who had a house. We're going to check out his house, or her house too. She lived there as well. And I'm also going to first take you by Lakewood Memorial Park, where Harry Collegian has a new home. He's passed away. The cremains of Harry Collegian are stored inside of Lakewood Memorial Park's Chapel of Remembrance. You will find him in a niche with the cremains of his first wife, Jerry. She died June 21st, 2002. Collegian and Channing were school sweethearts in San Francisco in the 1930s before Carol's mother split them up. After Jerry's death, Harry was lonely and met up with Carol again in 2003. While recording the audiobook of her autobiography, Just Lucky, I Guess, she rekindled romance with Collegian and they married on May 10, 2003. Carol Channing was married 4 times in her 97 years. The third marriage to Charles Lowes lasted the longest, from 1956 until she filed for divorce in 1998, and he died the following year before the divorce was finalized. So this is the house that Carol Channing and Harry Collegian lived in on Rumble Road, and really there's nothing about this house that screams that it's the home of a Broadway star. But they split their time between this house here in Modesto and a very nice house in Rancho Mirage. This house is nice too, though. Sightings of Carol Channing in Modesto were quite common. She even showed up for jury duty one day at the county courthouse where she was greeted by fans. She also showed up at the county library and different concert events. In April 2011, I had a chance to meet both Carol and Harry when they made an appearance at the Barking Dog Grill in downtown Modesto. During a photo op with her, she held on to me because she was very frail, and I distinctly remember Harry standing nearby telling me that a kiss would cost me $1. After Harry died on December 26, 2011, the eve of his 92nd birthday, Carol stayed in her Rancho Mirage home. She passed away on January 15, 2019, with her ashes reportedly scattered between the Curran Theater and the Geary Theater in San Francisco.
So now I'm going to take you by the first home of Mark Spitz, who was an Olympic swimming champion in the 1972 Munich Olympics. He was actually born in Modesto, and his parents brought him to this very modest house in Modesto. We'll take you by and take a look at where Mark Spitz once called home. Got up here to 1516 Del Mar. It's where Mark Spitz came home from the hospital when he was born. It's incredible. This is the house right here. Crazy. I bet the people living here don't even know it.
Mark Andrew Spitz, a 9-time Olympic champion swimmer, was born in Modesto on February 10, 1950, to Arnold and Lenore Spitz. They were living in this house when they brought Mark home from what was known as St. Mary's Hospital and later Modesto City Hospital, and now a rehab hospital. The couple was living here at the time at 1516 Del Mar in Modesto. Mark was their first child, and this was Mark's first home. His grandparents left Hungary after World War II and came to farm in the nearby town of Keys. Their names were Morris and Alice Spitz. His mother, originally surnamed Skloktovic, was from Russia. Mark's parents married in 1947. She was a native of Oakland where they first lived, and then they moved to this house here in Modesto. Mark's dad, Arnold, attended Keys Grammar School and Turlock High School. After attending Modesto Junior College for a year, he became a salesman for Ceres in downtown Modesto. Later, he became an operations manager for an Oakland steel firm. When Mark was 4 years old, the family moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, where they lived for 3 years. It is said that Mark Spitz swam at Waikiki Beach every day. Lenore Spitz told a reporter for Time magazine in 1968, "You should have seen that little boy dash into the ocean." A poster featuring Spitz wearing his swimsuit and 7 gold medals made him the hottest pinup since Betty Grable. Following the 1972 Munich Olympics, the 22-year-old Spitz retired from competition. Spitz's good looks earned him a lot of attention, and he appeared in at least 5 TV shows, including Emergency and a Bob Hope TV special. Spitz also went to work for ABC Sports as a commentator at the 1976 and 1984 Olympics. He was also hired for a number of commercial endorsements. Now at the age of 74, Spitz is self-employed as a corporate spokesman, real estate investor, stockbroker, and a motivational speaker.
So I had to stop and get some gas, but now we're going to head out to Ladd Road. It's north of Modesto. It's the home base for Harve Presnell. Actually, his parents had a farm out there, a fruit ranch, I understand, and I think they also raised turkeys. But they lived on this nice big property out in the country. Harve lived there while he attended Modesto High School, and then after he left high school, he moved on to San Francisco where he studied music and drama. And you probably know the name Harve Presnell relating to Paint Your Wagon. He sang that beautiful song, The Call to Win Mariah. He was also in a cameo role in Saving Private Ryan, playing General George Marshall. And he was also known for his role with Debbie Reynolds in The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Modesto is quite proud of him, and he never forgot his roots. He never abandoned his hometown. He came back quite often, unlike somebody like the likes of George Lucas, who kind of creates a lot of angst with some people because he hasn't been too supportive of even the establishment of an American Graffiti Museum here in Modesto. So you can understand that people are got butthurt about it.
This farmhouse coming up on Ladd Road was confirmed as the former home of future actor Harve Presnell when growing up outside of Modesto. The house belonged to his parents, Hubert and Ada Presnell, who have both passed away. Harve Presnell was born in Modesto in 1933. As a teenager, he picked peaches on the family ranch here. In fact, his dad told the local newspaper, quote, "I lost the best farmer I ever had before he started his singing career." Presnell attended Modesto High School from 1946 to 1950 and attended Modesto Junior College where he played football. His singing career began in 1953 at the University of Southern California. He would go on to gain fame in Paint Your Wagon,
The rain is Tess, the fire's Joe, and they call the wind Mariah.
Fargo,
Where's my damn daughter? No Gene, no money.
and a cameo role in Saving Private Ryan. Presnell also starred with Debbie Reynolds in The Unsinkable Molly Brown. But he is probably best known for his role as Daddy Warbucks in the Broadway play Annie. He never forgot his hometown and often returned to perform at benefit concerts for charity. His paternal grandmother, Minnie Presnell, who lived from 1883 to 1972, is buried at Lakewood Memorial Park's Evergreen Garden. So was his grandfather, George Harve Presnell, who lived from 1881 to 1973. I found it very interesting that Hubert Presnell was the brother of Verda Presnell Foster, who was the wife of Max Foster, who founded Foster Farms. I found their graves easily, but Hubert is not buried here. Harve Presnell passed away in 2009 when he was 75. I have no grave to show you because he was cremated and have no idea what happened to his ashes.
So now I'm going to head off to Turlock, California. It's the second largest city in Stanislaus County, next to Modesto, where we're going to find Hedy Lamarr's former digs. Believe it or not, Hedy Lamarr, famous actress, lived in Turlock for a while because she married a Turlock boy who was her divorce attorney in Beverly Hills. That's a unique story.
Seems like I get stopped by a train way too much, but since I'm here, let me tell you about this Modesto Arch. It's probably the most famous structure. Modesto is built in 1912, and it bears the words Water, Wealth, Contentment, and Health, which was the slogan of the city at that time. So rolling down this beautiful street at Sierra Street in Turlock, we're going to head down and see where Hedy Lamarr stayed from time to time. Love streets like this that are lined with trees. So this beautiful 5-bedroom house here on the corner of Sierra and Shasta Street in Turlock was actually considered the home away from home for a Hollywood actress, Hedy Lamarr, dubbed the most beautiful woman in Europe. It's a Garrison Colonial built in 1941 by Louis Boys. He was the founder of Boys Pharmacy here in Turlock. And his son was a 1938 Turlock High School graduate, Louis Boys Jr., and he moved to Beverly Hills where he was her divorce attorney, and they married in March 1963. Hedy Lamarr's career peaked in 1949 when she played Delilah in Cecil B. DeMille's biblical epic Samson and Delilah. Besides being an actress, Lamarr was a mathematician who co-invented a technique for spreading spectrum communications and frequency hopping that was necessary for wireless communications. In March 1963, she married Louis Boys Jr. at the home of a friend in Fresno at this house at 1660 Columbia Street. They regularly visited Turlock and stayed at the Sierra residence where his mother lived. Lamarr may have been a beauty and a big star in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, but she couldn't keep a man and was married 6 times and became the mother of 3 children. Her marriage to Boys came to an end in 1965, and Lamarr's sightings in Turlock came to an end. This is the same exact Turlock High School building where actor and dancer James Mitchell attended school and where he graduated in 1937. Now, he lived in Turlock for 9 years, and he once credited his high school drama teacher, Robert Reese, with encouraging him with acting pursuits since his family thought it was a complete waste of time. He was class president here. He was involved in drama and debate and other clubs. I even came across a 1937 article that detailed how James Mitchell was selected to give a student address for Memorial Day at Crane Park, which is nearby. So I noticed that this bench has been out here in front for a long time. Look at this. It's probably here when Mitchell was here. I'm sure it was. 1937 is when he left here. So he may have even sat on this bench. Now I'm going over here. This is the side door to one of the classroom wings, and I'm pretty sure that Mitchell would have come in and out this door as a student. I did read that in the 1937 Turlock High School yearbook. He wrote, "Friendship has done much to make our high school work pleasant and interesting. We who have attended Turlock High School are proud of this friendly spirit and hope that many of these friendships will endure through the years." Mitchell was 17 when he graduated from Turlock High School and left Turlock for Los Angeles. He went on to fame as an actor and dancer and appeared in Brigadoon, Paint Your Wagon, and Carnival in the 1940s and 1950s. But he's probably best known for playing Palmer Cortlandt in the soap opera All My Children, starting in 1976 and for the next 30 years. He was born in Sacramento in 1920 to English immigrant parents who moved to Turlock to run a fruit ranch. In 1923, Edith left her husband and son to return to England. The dad didn't feel like he could run the farm and raise his 3-year-old son by himself, so James was sent to live with foster parents in Los Angeles. When Dad remarried, he brought both of his sons back to Turlock, where he worked as an accountant. James Mitchell said he never saw his mother again. James Mitchell passed away in January 2010 at the age of 89. Character actor Jack Elam, who made an impression on TV and movie audiences for decades, lived in Stanislaus County briefly in the 1930s. Based on information that I received from locals, Elam lived with his father, Millard Elam, in a ranch house on rural Harding Road just south of Turlock while attending Modesto Junior College. When I wrote to the actor in 1986, Elam confirmed that half-brother Robert Elam was a professor at Modesto Junior College, which he attended in the 1930s. They apparently weren't close, as he mentioned only seeing him twice in the last 20 years. Millard Elam apparently lived in various places in Turlock. A 1959 newspaper article about a Turlock house fire indicated that Millard Elam was the landlord who was renting it out at the time. The fire was caused by a smoldering cigarette in a couch, but damage was light. I don't believe that Jack ever lived here with his dad at 316 South 1st Street in Turlock, but he possibly visited here. Jack Elam was born in 1920 in the Arizona mining town of Miami to Millard and Alice Elam. When he was just 4, Jack's mother died in 1924 after the Elams moved to Globe, Arizona. She was just 30 years old. Jack and his older sister Mildred went to live with family members until Millard married schoolteacher Flossie Varney in April 1928. As a child, Jack periodically worked picking cotton. When he was 11 years old, Jack experienced a life-changing event at a Boy Scout outing. During a scuffle with a fellow Boy Scout, a pencil was jabbed in his eye, causing permanent muscle damage and eventual loss of sight in it. This permanent damage gave Elam his trademark wayward pupil that would work to his advantage in films. Later in 1951, when Jack mentioned getting his eye fixed, 20th Century Fox studio producer Darryl Zanuck replied, "Don't do it. It's part of your mystique." Elam graduated from Phoenix High School in the late 1930s and moved to Stanislaus County, where his father and stepmother Flossie lived since 1937. Jack attended Modesto Junior College for a brief time in the 1930s as an accounting major. He washed bread pans at night in the nearby bakery to earn money. While at MJC, Jack met a young woman named Jean Louis Hodgert, where both were involved in drama. His first job out of college was that of a bookkeeper at the Bank of America that was once here at the corner of Center and Main Streets in Turlock. Years after he left town, this building caught on fire. After 6 months of working at the Turlock B of A, he and Jean eloped and married in August 1939 in Las Vegas. The young couple moved to Southern California, where he became an accountant for Standard Oil, later as an auditor for the Beverly Hills Hotel, and then manager of the Bel Air Hotel. Despite his blindness in one eye, Jack served 2 years in the Navy during World War II. This draft registration card signed by Jack shows that he was living at 1930 Whitley Avenue in Los Angeles in 1942. Jack Elam found work as a controller for the Hopalong Cassidy Productions, but the eye strain prompted him to pursue a career in acting. Tragedy struck Jack and their 2 children when Jean was diagnosed with colon cancer and died on January 24, 1961. At the time, Jack and Jean were living at 5744 Buffalo Avenue in Van Nuys. FindAGrave.com states that Jean is buried here at Lakewood Memorial Park outside of Houston, but cemetery records don't reflect that. Still, she could be buried here with her parents, Jack Elam's father-in-law and mother-in-law, Lynn and Ruth Haggard. Jack married a second time to Margaret Jenny Jensen, who bore his 3rd child, Jacqueline. While Flossie Elam was quite the social butterfly in Turlock's social circles, Millard Elam made news for different reasons. An article in the Modesto Bee reported that he was charged with assaulting an Archie Little in Turlock on May 24, 1945. Little sought $5,000 in damages, and the suit would be settled out of court in 1948. Millard Elam died in Turlock on November 15, 1965. He was cremated and has no grave. Stepmother Flossie Elam would die in 1985 and is buried at Lakewood Memorial Park in Houston. Jack Elam himself died on October 20, 2003, but he has no grave either, for he was cremated and the location of his ashes is unknown. Right, so I come over to Riverbank, specifically outside of this old Nifty's drive-in, and right next door is a residence called 3223 Atchison. And whenever you see palm trees like this, you can kind of figure out that there was a house here. And indeed, there was a house here. It was occupied by a Mr. Harpe. It was built in the 1800s for railroad workers, and Mr. Harpe lived here, and his nephew lived here from time to time. His name you might know as Merle Haggard, the country western singer. Unfortunately, the house has been torn down, but Linda Mitchell purchased that building, and she had this house leveled. I was told by a reliable source that this is where Merle Haggard lived. And Merle Haggard performed here at the Riverbank Clubhouse. Now, it's several blocks that direction, but the local clergyman did not appreciate the fact that there was a honky-tonk in town with dancing, and they actually got the city to outlaw dancing here in Riverbank, and that's why Merle Haggard left. That's what I was told. Now, I was also told that there's a lady that still lives here that was here when Merle Haggard was here, and her kids would come over and listen to that convict Merle Haggard play, and she didn't like it. Apparently this town wasn't too friendly to Merle Haggard. .530 Ramona, a house that George Lucas grew up in. It was built in 1939. His parents already had 2 girls by the time that George was born, and he was born on Mother's Day in 1944. It's possible that either of these bedrooms in the front could have been his. The Lucas kids often would play outside because they didn't have a TV back in the 50s. If you pay attention to American Graffiti, you will actually know that George Lucas inserted the name of his street when Mackenzie Phillips mentions the living on it.
By the way, where is it that you live, Carol?
Over in Ramona. Why? Oh, no. You thought I'd tell you where I live? Not me.
So in the 1950s, George Lucas attended school right here, John Muir Elementary School. There's a fence around this campus right now, but obviously back in the 50s, there was no need to put any kind of gate or fence around any school in the country. Things were safer back then. This is the junior high school that George Lucas attended back in the 50s. Campus looks pretty much the way it looked way back. Nothing changes in Modesto, it seems like. He went to high school right here, Thomas Downey High School. And the building looks pretty much the same way that it looked back when he was attending school here. He graduated in 1962, which would have meant that he started here in 1958. I understand he was also a tennis player. He played tennis here. There you go. This gives us the date, 1951, this high school was built. Right here is the grave of George W. Lucas. He died in 1991. He is the father of Star Wars producer George Lucas. And right over here, unfortunately covered by dirt, is his mother, Dorothy Lucas. She died in 1989. And then over here is the grave of O.H. Art Renner, who was the grandfather of Jeremy Renner. And right next to him is Jeremy Renner's grandmother, Ruth Ann Renner. She died in 1998. On Acorn Lane in Ceres, the city just south of Modesto, is the former home of a congressman who was embroiled in a 2001 scandal relating to a missing Washington, D.C. intern named Chandra Levy. Gary Condit lived here at the time of the huge media frenzy that focused on the story, which was also fodder for these trashy tabloid magazines. The media posted outside of Condit's house, but he was able to come and go while avoiding TV cameras. How is that? He reportedly ducked down in a car which would drive into a neighbor's garage. The garage door came down, and he would sneak into his yard through an opening in the fence. At the same time, elsewhere in the county, Robert and Susan Levy were grieving the loss of their daughter. It was here in this sprawling house in a rural enclave north of Modesto that Chandra Levy left home, never to return again. While he was never accused of murdering the college student, the scandal destroyed Condit's political career, and he lost his re-election bid in 2002. Shortly after his loss, Chandra Levy's remains were discovered in Rock Creek Park. This segment takes us to Escalon, the next city north of Modesto, but just inside of San Joaquin County. The downtown area of Main Street is but a throw from the Santa Fe Railroad tracks and looks like it did back in the 1940s. In fact, it would make an ideal location for a 1940s era movie, minus the Pilotti studio. For a time in the 1950s, actor Ben Johnson frequented this business district. That's because he lived on a ranch not far out of town. One gentleman told me that he was young when he met Johnson at a business on Main Street called Perry's Western Shop, which sold saddles and tack supplies. Since the business and Johnson are both long gone, I had to dig into newspaper archives from that era to find an ad with an address. That information led me to this building, which is now a cabinet shop. It's good to see at least one of the buildings where Johnson shopped still standing. From there, let's head north a few miles to Skiff Road, where Johnson raised longhorn cattle on his own ranch. Nobody was able to tell me the exact location of the ranch on Skiff Road. While he was here, Ben Johnson occasionally competed in California rodeos, such as in nearby Oakdale, and appeared in the 1955 rodeo parade as its Grand Marshal. Ben Johnson was born on the Osage Indian Reservation in 4 Acre, Oklahoma on June 13, 1918. In his early years, he was drawn to rodeos and horse breeding. His writing skills were his entry into film work, starting with the Howard Hughes film The Outlaw in 1943. Johnson became a highly paid actor purely by accident while serving as Henry Fonda's stunt double in the 1948 film Fort Apache. During filming, the horses pulling a wagon with 3 actors aboard stampeded, and Johnson charged along the team to stop them and save the crew. Director John Ford rewarded Johnson with a 7-year acting contract paying $5,000 per week. Ford cast him in the movie She Wore a Yellow Ribbon in 1949 and Rio Grande in 1950, and he was the lead in Wagon Master also in 1950. Shortly after playing a bully in the classic Western film Shane in 1953, Johnson took a break from film work to compete in the Rodeo Cowboys Association circuit, becoming the team roping world champion. When Johnson was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in 1979, he said he was most proud of winning a rodeo world championship than anything else in his career. Johnson's fame grew even more when he appeared in The Wild Bunch in 1969.
You're gonna get us all killed. I'm gonna get rid of you.
We're not getting rid of anybody. We're gonna stick together just like it used to be.
I consider myself lucky to have met Ben Johnson twice. The first was in 1982 when he was filming Shadow Riders with Tom Selleck and Sam Elliott in Columbia, California. In the late 1980s, I had another encounter with Ben Johnson at a film festival held in Jamestown, California, where we took this photo together. His life was claimed by a heart attack while visiting his 96-year-old mother at a retirement community in Mesa, Arizona. You could visit Mr. Johnson at the cemetery in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. James Marsters, the actor, singer, and comic book writer, also grew up in Modesto. Marsters attracted the general public's attention for his appearance as a villain and later anti-hero Spike on Season 2 of the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We have to talk.
I really don't.
Well, this isn't just about you, as much as you'd like it to be.
For the role, Marsters spoke with a London accent that he learned from coaching from British co-star Anthony Head.
I'm sorry. Not that it matters anymore, but I needed you to know that.
Why?
Because I care about you.
Modesto has also been home to at least 2 rock musicians. They include Edgar Winter, whose success peaked in the 1970s with his band, the Edgar Winter Group. The group is best known for their hits Frankenstein and Free Ride. Winter came to Modesto in the late 1970s at the behest of R&B singer Jerry LaCroix. Guitarist Michael Allsup of Three Dog Night, who once lived in nearby Empire, reportedly still lives in this area of Modesto, although I have not confirmed that. Allsup is now 77 years old. I also need to point out that Juan Romero, the busboy made famous in the iconic photos as he was cradling the head of mortally wounded Senator Robert Kennedy after being shot in 1968, lived in Modesto before his death. Romero was 17 at the time of the shooting in the kitchen of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. He died in a Modesto hospital on October 1st, 2018, after suffering a heart attack just days prior. He was 68.
Ooh, I'm getting hot. It's middle of summer in Central Valley, California. It can be very hot, very uncomfortable. They talk about how hot it gets in Palm Springs and Death Valley and Redding, California, but it gets pretty hot here in Modesto and Stanislaus County, especially when you're driving around in your car and the AC doesn't have time to catch up. But I hope that you have a greater appreciation for some of the celebrities who made their home in here in Modesto. Not the sexiest place in California, I will grant you that, but still honored the fact that this town and this county has produced a lot of famous people, a lot of famous entertainers. So we hope that some of them resonate with you. If you learned something today about some of the celebrities, great. Love to hear about that as well. Are you a fan of any of the celebrities that we showed you? Carol Channing, kind of annoying, I always thought. But until I met her, she was a sweetheart. Are you a fan of Jeremy Renner or Timothy Olyphant? Just curious. Give us a thumbs up as well. And if you could always subscribe to History Hunters, only need to do it one time, we would appreciate that as well. Thanks. Get out of this hot car.